When you face fears and you have to think something funny, phobias can never become zero. So what you need to do is prepare yourself. Namaskar. Welcome to Conversations with Rakesh. Here's today's question that you sent me. Sir, I'm very eloquent in speaking when I talk to myself. But when I have to speak in front of someone, I start to bumble and become very anxious. What do I do? My dear friend, this is a great question, but this is like asking that, sir, I'm very comfortable in looking at the swimming pool, but I'm very afraid in jumping into it. So let's not worry about your comfort issue. That I think the problem is jumping into the pool. And to me, I'm very afraid of heights. To give you a perspective of how afraid I am, that whenever I travel and the plane takes off and when we are up in the air, my face is very, very scared, visibly. In fact, there is this very funny video I saw on WhatsApp on a group of people somewhere in China, and they have made some kind of a transparent sky deck hundreds of meters above on a mountain cliff. So when you're walking on that sky cliff, you can see the entire valley below your feet, and people are crying. There is an old man who's like being pulled by his family members because they're afraid, because they see the big valley deep inside and they are afraid that they might die, and they are crying. I have a very similar problem that the moment I go up on the second floor and I look down, my knees will start trembling, my mind will shut down. So I'm suffering from a phobia, and this phobia comes from heights. And for me, this phobia has a value that out of 10, I experience a 10 out of 10 fear. But there are many people who are very comfortable with heights. In fact, if you look at the images of all the workers who built skyscrapers in New York and many other cities, they are happily having lunch on top of a single steel girder, looking down as if they're sitting on a balcony. And they are able to manage those fears and those situations. So for them, the number of that phobia would be, let's say, 1 out of 10. They do experience some fear, but it is way less than my fear, which is 10 out of 10. All of us, all 7.5 billion people on this earth, experience some phobia from something. The question is, what is the value? Because based on that, we need to start thinking our next problem. That our agenda is never to focus on becoming 0 out of 10, because that's impossible. We will always have some kind of a fear out of something. The trick is to know what is the value and reducing it, because some fear helps us think better, become more creative, find a solution. So if you are afraid of speaking in front of audiences, that's called glossophobia. And also there's a social phobia, which is also called social anxiety disorder. So if you are suffering from that phobia, find out the level. That are you a 10 out of 10, which is you just cannot face them and you collapse? Are you 5 out of 10, where you tremble a little bit but somehow speak and get your work done? Or are you 1 out of 10, which is you speak without any fears? And if the answer is that if you are 10 out of 10 or high number, I think your objective is to bring that number from 10 to 1. So how do we do that? Well, I can tell you some tips from my experiences. That first is, please mentally prepare yourself. That I think facing the fears that you have requires mental preparation. And it is actually nothing but a chemical problem in your brain. Your brain lacks oxygen at that time. And because it lacks oxygen, everything in your brain shuts down. You don't even know how to breathe actually at that point of time. There was this movie called Anaconda, which actually had this, I think the punchline of the movie was that when you are scared, you don't breathe, which is true. All of us are so scared when we see an audience that we just freeze at that point of time. We stop breathing. That means oxygen is less, it becomes even worse, and the brain shuts down. When the brain shuts down, it's all over. So what you need to do is prepare yourself, that calm yourself, breathe as much as you can, relax a little bit, because you are now facing a very big challenge. And to face that big challenge, your brain needs to have that power to face it. So that's step number one. Please prepare yourself mentally. Second, when you face fears, you have to pretty much go through the fear like how Harry Potter and his friends faced monsters in a beautiful movie called The Prisoner of Azkaban, where a professor makes them stand in a queue, and there is a cupboard which has a monster called the Bogart. And whenever the professor would open the cupboard, the Bogart will take shape of whatever is the scariest thing to you. And then he teaches you a spell which is ridiculous. And you have to think something funny while saying that spell, which is such a brilliant lesson in life. That you have to face your fears, but you have to prepare yourself that, okay, let me do something funny. And the same thing was there in Three Idiots. Amir Khan keeps doing all is well, all is well. And you have to do that. So when you face your fears and you're in front of your audiences and you're scared, think of something funny. Maybe you can think of the audiences, playing a badminton or swimming or just sitting in their morning and having a cup of chai so that your mind starts to deal with that situation. And the last is that you have to finish what you have and practice this, which is called the good word of practice, that practice makes a man perfect. That you have to face your fears, be mentally prepared, and keep trying as many times as you can, because there is no other way that you will learn to overcome these fears. Phobias can never become zero. Phobias can be dealt with and minimized. So please practice all of these things. And whoever has asked this question, stop watching the swimming pool. Prepare yourself. Think something which gives you that strength. Jump. And if you find that it is breathless and you can't handle it, come out, try all over again. Because that's the only way you can overcome your fears and speak with confidence in front of people.